Everyone said that Marvel's Endgame was the most ambitious crossover of all time, but I think it's time for the superheroes to step aside as the cartoons take the stage, because that mad lad Alex Hirsch has laid the foundation for the greatest crossover of all time. A crossover for potentially every cartoon in existence. And if you don't believe me, the Owl House and Amphibia prove that something great is coming. Hey there everyone, Lars here from Camille's Harem, not just a podcast for novice writers by novice writers, but also a YouTube channel by novice writers for novice writers, because writing is an adventure, it's more fun with friends, and before I dive headfirst into this massive theory, I'm going to ask you to please do a few things if you enjoy this theory and video. If you like this video, please hit the like button, and if you think this theory has any sort of merit, please share it with as many people as possible. Let's get the word out there. And if you want more of this kind of content, then please subscribe. Alright, so enough begging on my knees. Let's get into this shared cartoon universe theory. In order for this theory to work, I'm going to have to prove that Gravity Falls, the Owl House, and Amphibia all take place in the same universe, and more specifically, on the same version of Earth. I will then theorize what kind of possibilities this theory opens up, and finally, I will pitch story ideas for how this theory will play out once Amphibia and the Owl House have concluded their runs. In case you don't know about these amazing shows, you need to get your act together and binge them yesterday. They are amazing. They are phenomenal. Gravity Falls tells the story of an absolutely insane summer vacation as Dipper and Mabel Pines go to visit their great Uncle Stan in the sleepy but mysterious town of Gravity Falls, Oregon. The last place that you'd expect the fate of the world to be decided. And the Owl House is a portal fantasy story about the adorkable outcast Luz, who follows an owl through a portal to the Boiling Isles, a realm where all the weird things in the universe originates. A place where Luz can finally be herself. And Amphibia is yet another portal fantasy story about Anne Boone Choi, who is teleported with her best friends to a world populated by frogs, toads, and newts. She has to join up with Sprig Planter and his family to find a way back to Earth and discover the true meaning of friendship and family. All three shows share similar jokes, similar character arcs, similar themes, and they even reference each other throughout their runtimes. But more than that, they are closely interconnected, establishing the basis for a shared cartoon universe. And let me just say right off the bat, I get that shows and showrunners love to have Easter eggs and references to other popular works. I mean, Alex Hirsch, Matt Brawley, and Dana Terrence are all friends and colleagues, so they will take the opportunity to reference each other's stories in fun ways. But that, though, is where most viewers and fans leave it. But, as an author with a bunch of friends who are also authors, let me tell you, we do the same. But more than that, creators are among the first to ask this question before it even gets to their fans. What would happen if our characters and worlds ever met? What would that look like? Wouldn't it be great if we could merge our amazing stories and tell an even bigger story? I 100% guarantee that that is what has happened behind the scenes of these three shows, and I will prove it right here by showing that these three stories take place, at least in part, on the same Earth and ultimately in the same universe. It all starts with Gravity Falls. Alex Hirsch's show and all the crazy stories that he spun off from it set a lot of the rules and our understanding for a shared cartoon universe. Ford Pines and his adventures reveal the complexities of the multiverse and how there are multiple worlds, dimensions, pocket universes, pocket realities, and a lot of insanity out there in the cosmos. It is nothing orderly and exactly quantifiable. So, sorry science, and sorry film theory, it's going to get kind of messy from this point out. Instead, thematic storytelling, magic, and wibbly-wobbly timey-wiminess win out in order to create this shared cartoon universe. In the middle of all of this madness and insanity, it's easy to miss some of the small details that help pull everything together. One detail is the knowledge of Grunkle Stan's 48-hour-long marriage to a strange pale woman with a snaggletooth and crazy hair who was trying to steal his car. Okay, so this description kind of matches Ida, but that could just be conjecture. However, we get concrete evidence of her in the Lost Legends. We clearly see her wanted poster hanging around in the crawl space, and we find Albert being carted off in the background. Not only is this totally a place where Ida would be looking for adventures and stuff to steal, but it's also a place where Ida could very easily find herself on the back foot and lose her precious talisman for a little while. There's gotta be a whole story here, and I want it! However, what we need to focus on is that Alex and Dana were together, and still are according to my knowledge, when they were making these books, and there is little wonder that they would not have had their stories cross over in some kind of way. Furthermore, Journal 1 directly references the Boiling Isles. The annoying thing is that we only have Journal 3 in actual print, so we can't further confirm what Ford wrote about the Isles, but it's all there in the Lost Legends. So, 3 separate references to the upcoming Owl House series in the book The Lost Legends, right on the heels of the show's announcement, go far beyond a simple Easter egg or two. But I can still, though, hear the naysayers complain that this isn't enough, even with a Bill Cipher hanging around within the Owl House show. So instead, let's feast our eyes on Emperor Bellus's portal for the upcoming Day of Unity. Doesn't it bear some strange resemblance to another portal we've seen? Furthermore, we learn in Journal 3 that the schematics given to Ford by Bill were particular to opening up a line directly to the Nightmare Realm, but that a portal can be reconfigured to open up to other worlds and dimensions, as is again shown in the Lost Legends. There are plenty of other devices out there that use the same kind of portal setup to go around the multiverse. By now, though, many fans of both Gravity Falls and the Owl House have kind of accepted at least a soft connection between both stories. But what about Amphibia? Amphibia's hilarious episode, Wax Museum, is a massive homage to Gravity Falls. In it, Frog Zeus contemplates the existence of other dimensions where people are similar to an infinite variety of themselves on other worlds. This is a possibility confirmed by Journal 3, and the episode even contains a code that reveals that there is a Zeus in every dimension. Again, this complements everything established in Journal 3, and even about how Bill has tried to get multiple Ford Pineses across the multiverse to fall for his traps and schemes so he could be released from his prison in the Nightmare Realm. On Amphibia existed an opportunity just like that with the Pons family, but it will never come to fruition because Stan Pons is, well, dead.
Except for that curator, he's dead.
Okay, so there is no denying a connection between Amphibia and Gravity Falls. But is Anne from the same Earth as Dipper, Mabel, and Luz? Well, we do have a lot of interesting bits of info to play around with here. Let's have a look at some of these things. So, King Andreas has a book detailing the worlds that Amphibia is connected to. One planet is obviously Earth, though the connection there is kind of a little bit wonky. I'm looking forward to what Amphibia Season 3 has to say about that. But there's another planet that does bear resemblance to what we think of when we look at the Boiling Isles, with all of its dark and purple aesthetic, but there's really nothing concrete from the book. However, the Curator's Museum does have pictures of the Loch Ness Monster on it, which is clearly from Earth, and once again, plenty of icons for Bill. Also, we might question the origins of the great Axolotl, Bill's natural enemy, and if he has any ties to Amphibia, a planet that already has, as far as we know, yet to be seen frog deity, a toad-like creature referred to as the Knight, another deity, and it's obviously not too big of a stretch then at that point to say that there should be a newt deity if there's already a frog and a toad. However, the big evidence for a connection is all back on Earth. In Amphibia's flashbacks, we get references to plenty of video games, which Gravity Falls loved to make fun of. But Luz also has a reference to the same video games on her satchel. So we're looking right here at The Legend of Zelda, further hinting at a connection between all three. And we do get to see iconic Nintendo and Sega games and consoles in the background. Once again, we get to see all of these little connections right here. Furthermore, Anne, Marcy, and Luz all have similar coverings to their phones, indicating that these girls are following a familiar trend. But the big clue, however, is Dr. RP's Extraordinary Guide to Magic and Mystery. In the book, we get another reference to Bill Cipher right there, in plain sight, as well as more details about world hopping. And this is a really big theme between all three shows, the idea that you can jump from world to world. That is very curious, very direct, very interesting. And as Ford explains, once again, Bill has left all kinds of clues to bring people to him, specifically to Gravity Falls. He's left these clues all over the Earth. So basically, you can find an image of Bill's Cipher anywhere, and it should lead you eventually to the falls. The point is that there are too many deliberate references between all three shows to pass it off as just simply Easter egg. And honestly, when we look at it, with all three shows sharing quite a bit of information about world hopping, and that you can connect to multiple worlds, it just seems way too well thought out, way too pre-planned. And once again, going back to Alex and Dana, they were already laying out clues and hints really early on. All of this shows that this is very planned, very meaningful. All of these connections, all of this background evidence, it is way more than just a simple Easter egg. And so therefore, it's not really too much of a leap to say that the human protagonists from all three shows should probably be coming from the same Earth. Now, it's cool and all to say that these stories are connected, but the question is, to what end? That is where the shared cartoon universe theory really comes in. Remember what I said, that authors who are friends with each other all want to know what it would be like if their stories ever crossed paths? Well, Matt, Alex, and Dana have way more friends than just each other. They have plenty of friends in the industry who are running their own shows. For instance, there are plenty of references to Gravity Falls in both Rick and Morty and Star vs. the Forces of Evil. Rick and Morty even have Stan's cup and notepad fly into the show, and we get to see that Rick has left a memory behind at the crawl space. And on the note of references, there is something very important to bring up here. While Star vs. the Forces of Evil has a Gravity Falls reference, there are no Star references prevalent in any of the other shows. Why is that? Because Star Butterfly destroyed all magic in her universe and cut off all forms of magical transportation from her universe to any of the others. In effect, Star Butterfly quarantined her dimension from everything else. And oddly enough then, that awful, unfulfilling finale for the series actually feeds us details about how the connected multiverse works, namely that it is possible to isolate not just a world, but an entire dimension from everywhere else. This would further enhance the fact that the Nightmare Realm is indeed a prison for Bill Cipher, and that he needed a very complex plan in order to bring him and his henchmaniacs to Earth. And all of these details are again confirmed in Journal 3 and the Lost Legends. So, thanks, Star vs. the Forces of Evil. Even though you were one of the biggest letdowns in current cartoon history, you did a good. So thanks to all this evidence, there is now a way to connect Gravity Falls, the Owl House, and Amphibia to every other cartoon potentially in existence. Whenever there is a Bill Cipher reference, or a Pines, or a Zeus in a cartoon, they can be reached through magical or scientific portals. This is because they have effectively become a parallel universe or dimension that all plays into the greater stories. They can be reached. And now I have to question, really, our own reality, given the number of Bills, Pines, and Zeuses that I've all seen running around. But again, the question remains, to what end is all of this? Well, the Walt Disney Company and Ricky Rat very much want to own everything. And after the MCU and now the connected Star Wars universe have pulled in so many fans and dollars, well, what if they wanted their own connected cartoon universe pre-prepared to annex all the other cartoons in their yet-to-be-acquired empire so that they could replicate that same success? It makes sense! It would be perfect! Okay, aside from Disney's evil plans to eventually take over the world, it all comes back to the big question. What if our stories crossed paths? While copyrights prevent an immediate crossover, studios have in the past shared their IPs to create a unique crossover picture or event, one of the most famous examples of which would be Who Framed Roger Rabbit. By laying all of the groundwork with these three shows, namely Gravity Falls, The Owl House, and Amphibia, this circle of creators have the means to implement a proper crossover story without having to pull some dumb hijinks like Cartoon Network has done to merge their own shows. I mean, come on, if you're going to merge your own stories, Cartoon Network, do it with some kind of underlining plot line and not with just some magical wave of the hand that exists for one lousy 10-minute episode. That is just simply what we call a Deus Ex Machina, and they are never any fun, and they are always stupid to use. They went out of vogue, they went out of fashion way back in ancient Greece, so it's time to move on. But seriously, everything is there to pull off a cartoon crossover of epic proportions. But I don't think that we're going to get there just yet. We have to be patient. Instead, I think that the plan is to eventually have a proper crossover between Gravity Falls, The Owl House, and Amphibia in one coherent story that will continue the progression of all three shows. An event that I think will play out once The Owl House and Amphibia have both concluded their third seasons, which are slated to be the end of both series respectively. If this later crossover event then is a success, it would throw open the doors to future expeditions that could even build up to MCU levels of epicness. So, this is where I round off the video by theorizing what kind of stories could be told by merging all three shows together. Before I move on, there's something that I have to say both as an author and as a theorist. Speculation and theorizing are fun and all. I enjoy doing it. I enjoy watching it. But when it comes to stories, we should take care to think of what our theories will mean, not only for the stories in the long run, but also for the characters, and how these theories will complement the ideas, the themes, the arcs within the narrative. And that is something I hope to show with these theories of what a crossover between Gravity Falls, The Owl House, and Amphibia could look like. So, moving on to some of these crossover options. One of the most obvious, and really the biggest one moving forward, would be the return of Bill Cipher. This murderous Dorito chip has a bunch of backstory still to him, and he has a thirst for vengeance. There are many tantalizing mysteries yet to unravel where he is concerned, and his presence in the other shows could mean that his influence would be felt across all the other worlds that we have so far seen. Bill also has an unexplained relationship with the Axolotl, who, as I've previously stated, could be a deity from Amphibia. Bill Cipher is definitely worthy of a crossover event just by himself. However, the future could be even more simple than Bill returning. After Bill and his henchmaniacs broke into Gravity Falls, there was a lot of damage left behind. Ford and Stan even leave to go and hunt down the rest of the weirdness that's been riled up across Earth after Weirdmageddon. But more is coming to Earth. Amphibia is going to invade our planet, and while Emperor Bellos claims to not have conquest on the mind where Earth is concerned, our planet still remains a key to the Day of Unity. For more on that, you can check out my separate theory on Emperor Bellos. These separate incursions on Earth are bound to have all kinds of long-reaching repercussions. With more and more worlds now converging on Earth, this would be the perfect environment for the Pines family to thrive, especially after all of Ford's travels across the multiverse. All of the characters from these three shows would have reasons and continuity to come together and face down new challenges, foes, and worlds. They could become a real team of cartoon heroes that would have to keep Earth safe now that it is in the crosshairs of other worlds throughout the multiverse. And this would keep the Boiling Isles and Amphibia relevant as well. So those are the two most obvious tracks. There are also smaller stories that could be explored, like where did Wendy's mother disappear to, especially since we get some cryptic hints about her fate, and we also see that her memories are also in the crawl space. And there's the anti-Mabel still loose, and who knows what horror she could wreak on the multiverse. But those could be easily wrapped up in the second option of the show, dealing with the long-reaching consequences of Andreas' invasion and the Day of Unity and so forth, because those feel more like episodic stories. Now, with a crossover event being either about Bill Cipher's return or the consequences of Bellos and Andreas interfering on Earth, both provide ample opportunities for character growth and continuation of important themes. For example, the Pines family is back together and growing up. However, Alex left many questions unanswered and many mysteries unsolved. Some of these mysteries potentially affect members of the core gang, such as Wendy's mother. A quest to find her would give Wendy much needed development and show her relationship with the Pines and Zeus as it has evolved since Weirdmageddon. And this wouldn't be a bad place at all to insert characters like Luz. Luz's journey has been about finding acceptance and sharing adventures with a found family. The Pines and their allies are oddballs, though of a slightly different nature than Luz. And it would be amazing to see what would happen if their paths crossed and how their strengths and weaknesses would complement each other. And for world hopping, the most reliable form of world hopping actually comes from Amphibia. The Calamity Box has the capability to connect with multiple worlds, unlike the portals that we have already seen, making it so far the most versatile form of world hopping. So the Calamity Box would be the perfect tool for the heroes to use, which of course necessitates working with Anne and her friends. Now, Anne has gotten a lot of character development already, and this upcoming season promises so much more for the rest of the cast moving forward. But, as Matt Brawley has teased already, Amphibia Season 3 is just the beginning of bigger and better things. It took 2 seasons for Anne to get to the amazing development and point where she is at right now. So characters like Sprig, Sasha, and Marcy still have a lot of growing to do, and they need opportunities to display that growth. That is an important aspect of character development that many people forget. It's not just about reaching the mile markers in the journey, it's going beyond them to show how they utilize the lessons that they've learned and how they have grown. That is the true mark of character development, and a good crossover event or series could do wonders in that department of providing those kinds of opportunities. And if we got a journey involving Bill and the Axolotl, the moment you bring Eldritch Gods and the likes into the mix, all bets are off, and an incredible, unexpected epic can happen. That's honestly a whole lot more speculation, though, than I think we can do right here, right now. However, I will still post a bunch of my ideas about what could happen in such a crossover event or crossover series over at our subreddit, Camille's Harem, and there will be a link for that in the description. And I would love to hear your thoughts on what a crossover event between these 3 shows might look like. Now, there's obviously a whole lot more that can be and should be discussed in regards to the shared cartoon universe theory, but I don't want this video to be an hour long. So if you want to discuss it further, poke holes in my findings, or provide your own insights and evidences, then please sound off in the comments. You can also drop by our next live stream, which happens every other Friday, and ask us more about this shared cartoon universe theory, and the 3 shows in general. We'd love to hear from you. And again, if you enjoyed this video, please like, comment, and share it around. And if you want more content like this, please subscribe to our channel. And if you are an author looking for specific insights and lessons into how you can improve, please check out our podcast, Camille's Harem, found on Podbean, iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, the works. We also have writing challenges for you over at our Pinterest page, and you are invited to meet with us and with all the other writers in our community over at our Discord. Links again for all of these sites are down in the description. And until the next video, y'all, keep theorizing on this adventure that we call writing, and choose.